Recording in progress.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Finance Committee, May 11th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in conference room E. The meeting will be live streamed on the school board's YouTube channels. And we have
Elizabeth.
Ms. Hay is on. I see Mr. Campbell is here, and we have a cast of thousands from the finance department.
The whole team.
The whole team. Would you please introduce everybody on the team?
Tanya Crosby, Chief Financial Officer, Denise Matson, Director of Special Revenue, Cindy Phillips, Director of Fiscal Services, Lori Mock, Director of Finance, Jennifer Hamlin, Director of Procurement and Budget, Jim Levi, he's our magic of the E-rate department, and Katie Abar, an accountant and business systems analyst for the district.
And committee members, myself, Mr. Campbell and Ms. Hay are present. Mr. Campbell is here in the conference room E, and Ms. Hay is on Zoom. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We now I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
Sure.
Ms. Hay, can we have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those opposed, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, so motion carries. Do we have public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. And approval of the April 6, 2023 meeting minutes. There's one correction that I noticed right up front. Said that Ms. Hay was absent. She was not, she was present. And so, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes with that change?
Jim, I make a motion. Have that change.
I second.
Thank you.
The minutes with the corrections.
With the
sir?
corrections, yes.
Correct.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All motion carries unanimously. Thank you. First item after that is the monthly Board of Education budget. You want to put that on the screen, please? I looked at the budget. This is the end of the quarter. So any budget that's over 75% is of concern. But when there's only a couple board members that are over that, but that's in a state travel, but our overall budget expenditure is only 25%. So if a board member wants to continue to travel, they can, because we have plenty of money from other board members that don't have to travel as much. Everything else is well below 75%. Are there any questions or comments on the monthly board budget?
And Mr. Dallas is on as well.
Mr. Dallas is on, all right,
His hand's not up, he's on.
okay. Ms. Hay or Mr. Dallas, do you have anything on the board budget?
I do not have anything.
Nor do I, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We will go on to the next item. Next item on the agenda is the monthly $100,000 report. We have a consolidated report. I've had a chance to go over it. I have a few issues that I'd like to bring up. the Palmetto Electric bill is actually less than what we had a year ago, which is good, but our PC Solutions and Integration bill has gone up from 434,000 or gone down from 432,000 last year to 253,000 this year. Is that a billing? Because of different billing cycle?
Billing cycle.
Because the switch gears and. Like they
So-
do that installment payments.
Are those 8% projects or?
It's part of the E-rate program.
Part of the E-rate program? Okay, so the installation of switches and modules and
That's part of-
different technology support is a one-time project that is going on this year with 8% funds.
Okay,
So it's a capital improvement program.
okay. How about the Dominion Energy? Last year, our bill was 199,000, and this year it's 563,000.
It looks says this year we have made three. I'm not sure if I understand that.
So it looks like there were three that we have multiple accounts, and so this year there were 3 accounts that were paid in the month versus the prior year, only one of those accounts were paid in the month. So it's a timing of the billing.
Up to time of billing. Okay, so last year it was 1 account at this time, and this year it's 3 accounts at this time. Okay, well, that makes sense. Did anybody else have any other issues on the $100,000 report? Hearing no other issues. We'll on to the next agenda item, the transparency report for March. That one, transparency.
Slow. Linear.
No, we must have it. This is the $100,000.
She didn't print it because it's 113 pages, but I didn't.
113 pages.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can print it if you want it.
we have a consolidation of this. So I'm not concerned with that. Any concern? Ms. Hay?
No, nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the next item. ESSER update with dashboard.
I'll begin with the summary, and then I'll ask Ms. Matson to just give a brief summary of the amendments after I complete that. Is that all right, Denise? Where we are with we have in the 3 ESSER grants, ESSER 1, 2, and 3. ESSER 1 has expired. We spent 100% of that. ESSER 2 will expire September 30th of 2023. We are at 97% with progress toward that being 100% by the end of the year, by the end of the expiration date. And we're at 53% of the spending of ESSER 3. So we're at 68% spending. There are a number of activities that are in both ESSER 2 and 3. So there are staff members that are for other activities that we're currently spending out in ESSER 2. And as soon as those dollars expire, we will be shifting those positions and program expenditures to ESSER 3. So you'll see this level of spending pick up very quickly as we move into the new school year. So we have in the bottom quadrant of the dashboard, we have a narrative or a table of the major categories summarized by major categories. $77 million overall was the total of the 3 grants. And we have expended 52 million over the last 2 years, and with 1 year remaining, about $25 million remaining. So we do spend about $25 million per year. And we do forecast based on the lower left quadrant, the spending levels in blue. We're projecting the expenditures in blue they move up a little, down a little, in high months or quarters. You'll see perhaps there may have been a large expenditure in that. And then we do expect that to fall off in the first quarter of 2025, which would be the July to September quarter, which would be of 2025. That's where it expires. So we do expect to spend down the funds and fully we hope by June 30th of 25.
Before you go on,
Yes.
these are federal funds and they're based on the federal fiscal year, right? October to October.
Yes. So that's why they expire September 30th.
Right.
Yes.
So in the next budget, we will have about 3 months of ESSER funds to go. During July,
If they weren't all expended.
If they weren't all
yes,
expended, right.
By June, our
Which would-
target goal is
okay.
June of 25.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, so we can clean up any final
Yeah.
Right.
paperwork that
Okay.
needs to be taken care of. So our goal is to finish that out. And you wouldn't want staffing to be working just in a quarter and then half quarter of the way through the year.
Right.
Not have positions available or that sort of thing. So we're planning it out to really end the work in June on
Right.
June
and
30th.
that gives us 3 months if we have anything that comes up. We
Yes.
can find something worthwhile to spend it on.
Yes, well, there's always devices,
Sure.
And those sorts of things that we can utilize the funds
Okay.
if there are any remaining at this moment.
Carlton's hands up.
Pardon me?
Carlton's hands up.
Mr. Dallas.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Ms. Crosby, thank you for the chart. It's very, very easy to understand. On the ESSERs going past into, I guess, 2025, have we begun to make accommodations in the budgets going forward after ESSER ends so that we can continue the programs that we found beneficial?
Well, we are in the beginning stages of evaluating the work of what programs have been beneficial. So we have identified that we would be helpful to have a facilitator in that work. And we have an opportunity for a member of an association that we're affiliated with to be able to help us with that work. I think we're waiting on to get a little bit past the budget approval, and then we can focus on that, we call it the ESSER transition. But yes, there are 1 or 2 positions couple of positions in the current year that we've identified alternative funding sources. We've already moved into special revenue funds. Actually for the FY24 school year, so not the current year, but the next budget year. And we've already had at least 2 meetings with outside nonprofit agencies who are interested in allocating possibly a grant to us to be able to continue some of the most important and beneficial programs that we were seeing. So, for example, the after school community partnership program. So we are in those discussions, but we intend to, as soon as the budget is passed, intend to hit that transition, the prioritization work, begin that work, and very actively, I would say in the June timeframe.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Just a very brief follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, very, very concise one, sir.
Go ahead.
Is there anything in protocols, law, rules or regulations that would prevent us or prevent a private citizen for, say, funding of a specific program, sort of like happens at universities?
I don't see anything that would prohibit that, no, sir.
Okay.
We certainly, you treat it as a contribution or endowment or something to
Has to
that
be approved
nature.
by the board.
If it's over $5,000, it would need to be approved by the board.
Okay, that may be worthy of some consideration in case we run short on replacement for the ESSER funds. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
If you continue.
Just to mention, we usually mention the few large areas of spending, technology, security, extended learning in our school-based programs, mental health, master teachers. Those are some of the larger areas that we're seeing. Custodial contracts are still a portion of the custodial contract expansion or amendment was included in here as well. So we will continue those programs throughout the course of the grant period. And total expenditures for the month of April are $1,069,000. I do want to mention that in April of 2023, an ESSER 3 amendment was completed for budgetary purposes. It was not meant to add any new, there were no activities added in the program. We just moved the funding around to cover the existing activities within the grant period. So I'm going to ask Ms. Matson to provide a brief summary of the handout that you have labeled ESSER 3 Amendment number 6, summary of activities. You might
Yes,
come
okay.
to the table so that you can hear.
And this is a truly brief, consolidated summary of all the changes that were made. I did it by activities that you are used to seeing in the PowerPoints every month. Most of it was just areas when we're doing our projections and we saw that they were over budget. So we're moving it to places where they were under budget, trying to get all of that so that green line on your chart goes to 0. That's the part of just moving areas. We didn't add anything. And so we're just moving money to different places.
So the net of this budget change is 0. So we just, there was some mention several months back of a desire to see any budget amendments that went to the state for approval. And so we just brought this forward to to honor that request.
Okay, so as an example, let's talk about number 12. Project Lead the Way Launch Initiative, show a $214,675. Is that a credit or a debit?
That was not an account, that was a move out of it.
Move out from that.
What would that be called over there? Credit.
Decrease.
It was a decrease
Okay.
and it was not necessary.
Okay,
We worked with all I meet quarterly with each of the program people that run these things and we looked at each of their budgets and there's like, we're finished implementing that with these funds and so they could go someplace else.
so then let's go to another one. Let's go to number 6.
Mhm.
It's a $258,290 increase.
Mhm. And that is also under the learning loss, and that was probably from Dr. Stratus of moving that extra project launch right up to another one of her accounts
Okay,
there.
I see.
See, they're pretty close in,
Okay, so
money there.
basically we're shifting money
yes,
to where the user wants them.
yes.
Right. Okay, the finance team, you're not doing it. They're coming to you and asking for this
Yes.
to be changed. Okay. Okay.
We're approving it, that they're requesting it.
They're requesting
They're, and Dr. Stratus would approve it as well.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions?
So you can see 33 and 34 is just a switch of moving it from
Uh-huh.
one technology to another.
Understand.
Some of them are equal because they just moved
Right.
like that.
Ms. Hay, do you have anything?
Not, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dallas?
No, sir, nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. Very clear as always. I appreciate it. Next item is the third quarter financial report. Crosby.
Sure. We always begin with the revenues for the general fund. So that would be reports on, I'm gonna go through the summary on page 2, but I'll be referring to mostly the general fund revenues on page 5, and then the expenditures on several pages beyond that. So one of the larger areas of funding sources for the school district is local property tax collections. There we budgeted them at $178 million. We have collected $177.9 million as of the end of March 31st, as of March 31st. So we have collected 99.9% of budget, which is higher than previous years. Prior year collections were at 98.4%. So we were still a couple million shy last year of that budget. So we are seeing strong collections, the value of the mill. And the reasoning behind that is that all of the growth that you see in the county, the values of property, and we will continue. We have projected that we will have a favorable revenue balance. Our actuals will come above budget as of the end of the year, and we've incorporated those projections into next year's budget as well. So we do see some growth in that value of the mills that we have projected. So that's a very good thing. Those dollars, of course, have not been committed and would have to be committed by the board if spent. So at this point, those will just offset any other reductions in any other shortages that may occur in revenue throughout the rest of the budget, or will move into the fund balance at the end of the year. So state revenues is the second area that is really one of the largest. It's actually about 2/3 of our budget. So state revenues are budgeted $117 million. We have collected $76.5 million, which is 65.1%. And last year we collected 67%. So state revenues are very much contingent upon the timing of the payments from the state, from the Department of Education. So there may be some fluctuations or payments that lag a little behind others. I think one of the main reasons that we see that reduction may be due to the new funding formula, because last year we saw funding coming from EIA funds that were transferred in that are no longer there this year. They've been rolled into state aid to classrooms line, that line with the $37 million budget, or they've been left, or they remain in the EIA fund, which is special revenue fund, which is in a separate pot of money. So I think we're still in good shape here. And then we do continue to receive payments into July for the current fiscal year that we will accrue back. So we're in great shape overall from a financial perspective on revenues.
Overall, but I'm somewhat concerned about the state fall off and the federal fall off. This is something that has to be looked at very strongly when we go and determine our value of the mill and our expected revenue from local, because I frankly don't see the state matching what they said they were going to give us because of this new cycle. So that's also got to be, to the county, that's got to be stressed. That look at our revenue from state.
Correct. So one of the things that we're not going to see is the $7 million transfer from special revenue EIA. We're not seeing that this year. So some of that will be offset by the favorable balance, the above balance in the tax revenue. So of course, we won't budget. Are not budgeting for that transfer in FY24, but we are having to make up for that loss in the current year. And some of that will be offset by that local tax revenue. So we're going to be more conservative. We've been more conservative with the next year's budget in terms of state revenue. And we still don't have information from the state. And as you all probably know, the House too did not pass the budget bill, and they are have moved to not sure how you pronounce it. I think they pronounce it sine die. And today they have to pass sine die in order to continue their discussions in conference committee. If they do not do that, the state may have a continuing resolution until they can pass something to continue those budget discussions. So we're going to be going into the new year, and the state may lag behind with no budget. But I'm hopeful that they will find a way to return and continue their budget discussions.
And how about the federal variance?
Okay, so we have two pots of money in federal. One is impact aid. That is the application that we file that is for federally impacted students. So anyone connected to a military installation, a base, or their parent is connected in some way, either in the active duty or in the military, that or contractor or so on. So we're seeing about the same amount of activity as the prior year at 40,000. Just we believe, I think our budget was based on possibly the fiscal year 21, where we had a larger budget that year. So that is all based on an application process. And I don't expect that there'll be any more revenue this year. We have something come in.
State money.
That was state money. Okay. So we'll likely need to, we'll keep an eye on that, but I don't expect there to be any additional dollars there.
And how do we get the federal funds? We get it monthly, quarterly?
It could be years after in some cases. You get them sporadically. We never know when they're going to come, and they come on a voucher. They send us a voucher indicating how much we're going to receive. So it's a very unpredictable source of revenue.
Another reason
Yes.
to mention this to the county,
Mhm.
because they don't get federal funds.
I'm not sure if they receive impact aid. I think it's relating to school districts.
Yeah, but that's a variable that they don't consider when they look at our millage requirements.
The other pot is E-rate. So these are E-rate reimbursements. Now we get two different kinds, and Jim here is the expert in that area. I know enough to be dangerous, but we put E-rate revenue in two different pots. One comes from large 8% projects when we're doing major infrastructure overhauls, and those go into the 8% or capital funds. If these are expenditures for telecommunications, so we're spending dollars on telecommunications and then applying for reimbursement, and they come back into the general fund where they were spent from. So those two are somewhat unpredictable.
So what's the average lag between the time we submit it and then when we get it?
The variable is great. You do not know. It can be based on if they have questions about the application for reimbursement. That can extend out months and months. Sometimes we make application, get them rapidly. Sometimes we don't. There's not a rhyme or reason.
Thank you.
Do we expect any other additional dollars this fiscal year?
we
in
do,
this source.
we do from the land service, we still applying for reimbursement for some land items. In arrears.
All right, so the wide area network is also subject to payment, and we are expecting some additional funds for those that didn't hear him in this fiscal year.
And so expenditures, I see you're 67.8,
Yes.
so that's below the 75%.
Yes, and it is a couple of percentage points higher than last year, and that is good
Yeah.
because we did have some savings some significant savings last year. So we are ahead of the game. That means we're budgeting tighter and we are expending, and our salaries and benefits are larger as well. So we believe that we're right on track to spend every dime of this budget. And we're going to be looking very closely at it. We're already looking very closely at the projections. Every payday, we run a new projection just to make sure that we're on track.
So increase in fund balance, what do you think it's going to be?
Can't remember what my projection was. It could be, I hate to throw a number out there. It could be between 2 and 6 million. So we believe we're
Too
going,
low?
2 is the low end.
Okay.
But our tax revenue continue to outperform our projections. So it all depends, and that assumes that all expenditure, 100% of expenditures are made. Debt service, we're also showing very strong collections there as well. They're already at 100.2%. And that is very important because our estimates for the financial projections going out that affect our ability to borrow additional funds with no tax increase on a potential bond referendum. So this only strengthens our projection to know that is certainly capable and possible for us to continue to boast that we will be able to make a referendum if approved by the board happen without a tax increase. So it only improves that position.
And I hope that people understand that our millage has to be able to make the payments. It can't be what is set up by some accountant in the county auditor's office or anything. It has to meet the principal and interest payments that come out through the year.
And we'll have a new auditor beginning July 1. So I've already introduced myself a few weeks ago at a meeting, and we plan to work closely together. And Mr. Nuragari has a draft of the principal and interest payments that we'll be expecting to make.
Good.
And what our balance should be at the end of the year as well.
Good. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
I went through each of the budgets by the individual stakeholders, and I see very few that are above 75% expended, and those that are reasonable. They're front-loaded expenditures, and I don't see any issues with those. The student fund, the student activity funds.
Page 24.
Yes, page 24. We got some folks that are pretty low. Robert Smalls is down. fairly low. Battery Creek has gotten better.
I think construction has a major impact on this area.
Yes,
When a
yes.
school is undergoing major renovation
Right.
or a new school, new replacement school, this balance is drastically impacted because they're unable to use their performing arts centers or their gymnasiums and use and allow for those facilities use contracts. So a lot of vendors don't want to come into the middle of a construction zone when they're to use facilities. So I think that's why we're seeing Robert Smalls there so large. I think Battery Creek has recovered some, but still has, some ways to go.
Yeah, Wheel Branch is down too. Wheel Branch Elementary, Shanklin Elementary. In fact, Shanklin Elementary is on to $5,000. That's a bit of a concern. And they have not been impacted, except for the fact that during COVID, they couldn't let communities members come in and use any part of their infrastructure. But that level is
What exactly are these funds coming from?
These would be fundraising. They would be fees that are collected, whether they're for facilities use or technology use fees would be included in this. The facilities use fees, so people coming in to use the facility.
hot dog sales and that type of stuff.
Yeah, in an
Games.
elementary school,
Yeah.
there any spring events, they may collect some kind of money donations. In a high school or middle school, it'd be athletics as well.
But
And so with these fees, basically, they are able to use the funding from these fees in terms that they see fit that they need to use it. Exactly how was that how the process of the spending of this money goes?
Well, we do have some limitations. The technology use fee would come back to the district and it would be used to fund the repairs or replacements of devices that were damaged. And that's why you see the transfer column. So those have been transferred out to the district office, and then we use those balances to pay for the repairs. Everything else is kept at the school level, but each school has a series of accounts that they may put the funds in. So an after-school program, for example, revenues in an after-school program would go into that program, and then expenditures could go out of it. If it were in a high school, a particular club, it was the Future Farmers of America. They would their revenues would be restricted to just their club expenditures. So we wouldn't want the cheerleading team to spend the FFA fundraising funds. So we do make sure that they're spent in the categories that they were intended for when the funds were raised. So we do have some limitations in that way.
when you look at, go ahead, Mr.
So for instance, if a group came to the school and they want to donate for instance, they want to donate, let's just start there, $5,000 to the school, where would that money show up in these numbers? What would that process look like?
It would depend if they were restricting their donation to a particular area. If they're donating it to a particular area of the school, then we would make sure that the funds were spent and on the area that they stipulated. And if it's a donation in general, it would just go into a donation account at the school level, and then the school community could decide how those funds are spent.
And then that fund would not come before the board, correct? That donation, excuse me.
No, but unless it's $5,000 or more, it would come before the board. Donation, 1,000 or more come to me, and then they would be placed in the student activities. If they're under $5,000, and they would be spent according to the stipulations of the donation. Many of our donations come for a particular purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, when you look at it, there's Hilton Head High School has a balance of over $500,000. Bluffton High School has almost $500,000. May River High School has $327,000. Beaufort High has $150,000. Battery Creek has 94, and a lot of that 94 is they got about $300,000 for their electronic scoreboard, but the scoreboard itself cost about $250,000, and the rest of that went into their fund to maintain that scoreboard. And they're going to a parade in Chicago on Thanksgiving. And the principal says that, you know, she's got encumbered funds in there for the scoreboard, but her actual funds that she could use for this trip is less than $20,000. So, and Willow Branch has done a 78,000. Look at the 2K through 8. River Ridge has 296,000. Robert Smalls, 36,000. So, you know, I know it's cumulative, but the rich get richer and the poor are getting poorer. I think we're going to have to address this somewhat. And I don't know how to do that without, we can't say, you got to give it up, Hilton Head. But kids are not being able to fund some things because they're not able to attract or save the money to do these. So I am somewhat concerned about that. The elementary schools too, if you look at the difference between Bluffton Elementary with $101,000 and Shanklin Elementary with $5,000. That's an issue to me. And I think it's something that we're going to have a discussion about. And the last thing I'm going to mention, capital projects. It looks like 2019, we've about spent it and closed out that. 2020, we've got some work to do. 2021, 22, 23, there's a lot. We still have to do a better job of getting closeout on these 8% money. I really believe that we're going to have to start in our contracts for building any construction and the 8% that we put in you must submit all vouchers by not later than such and such a date of the contract. If not, you pay a fine. And that's what we do in the federal government, because we have to extend everything every fiscal year. We don't have to do that here. And so the contractors are using this for their cash flow. And I understand that. It's good for them, but it's not good for us. But this continues to be an issue. Mr. Campbell, you have anything else on this report?
No, it was fine. Second question. How do we, where does the Title I money come from? I know it comes from the government, but who does it come straight to you?
Well, we have to spend the dollars first and then apply for reimbursement. So we apply on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Getting the money back and into that.
We apply on a quarterly basis.
Because I know, Title I budget this year is going to be very high. That's what I was told, so.
Ours actually went down in the current year based on enrollment. And then we have a slight, it went down again.
This for FY24.
Yes.
It may be up overall in the United States and in the state,
but as they allocate it out, but it's.
So the schools get a set amount based on their enrollment?
Based on my thought,
Poverty level
is right, yes.
and enrollment.
And
Okay.
William's hands up.
I mean,
William's hands up.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir, current guy, Mr. Guy, yeah, I also do agree with what you just said, as long as well as also, I want to keep in mind, I was looking for in there. We have stuff like the booster clubs, and they have a lot of money that also that parents are giving, and I don't see those money, I don't see that money listed on here. How does that play out? Because that's becoming a big issue in some communities, and so my question is, how do they incorporate into schools, and where's their money listed at?
The booster clubs are not part of the Beaufort County School District entities, so they are separate legal entities from the school district. Therefore, their financial reporting is not included in ours. So they're separate nonprofit organizations that are set up, and they are responsible for their own financial reporting and financial statements. We have information on the balances in those accounts.
But don't those booster clubs use our buildings, our facilities for their meetings and different things of that nature in some of their fundraisers?
They may use it as part of the facilities use agreement if the intent of the meetings or events are held that are out for our students.
and for that right there, particularly, I think that we need to have a conversation around that, because their questionings, there's time I've had constituents that bring me questions that are wondering, how some of this money is being used, because once again, some of our booster clubs are just as rich as some of these other schools are, and they're not using the money across the board is what I'm being told. So that does bring some concern, especially when they're using public facilities to do some of these, have meetings and do different things, and say they represent different bodies. So I think that's something that we need to have a conversation around at some point in time, because it's a concern.
Understood. I agree with you. Any other, Ms. Hay, do you have any comments?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dallas, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. I think that's the reallocation of booster money from a group of volunteers and people who support a particular school to something else is fraught with risk and alienating a significant portion of the people that support us. I think another way to get at it is to start going to churches and other organizations that have very vibrant memberships, fraternities, sororities, and start a campaign to actually get people who have not traditionally donated to the schools to do so. And that's what I was alluding to when I asked the question of, is there anything that prevents private citizens from engaging in such activities? I think we would open a hornet's nest that would be beyond our control if we were to go in and say we're going to move money from Bluffton or Hilton Head, and it would just be uncontrollable. So I think instead of trying to think about how to move it, I'd say, and my suggestion, I didn't specify, is to actually look at how do we go out into the community and engage groups that are willing to do it but haven't been asked. So that will be something for consideration and future discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
I agree that there's no way we could tell a private nonprofit that they have to move money. We have no power or authority to do that. So that point is well taken. One last thing that I have is the money from our credit card revenue. Where is that in this?
On page 5, under the the middle column, the bottom row of other local, that $394,000, $912.
That's what we.
That is our P card. Our P card rebate was probably a little. Yes, that is our P card rebate for this year.
Okay. And that is in simply the general fund?
Yes, sir. The board made a motion and approved it a few years ago to move those permanently into the operating funds. So that's where we code it each year in the general fund to support operations.
Okay.
So we do expect our spending continues to maintain about the same levels. So we do expect about that much next year. I think we budgeted for about the same $400,000.
Yeah, Ms. Hay and Mr. Dallas, like you, if you spend money on your credit card, some of your plans, you get a rebate. But we use our credit card at the district here for paying our utility bills, a lot of other things, of course. And we generally get around $400,000 a year in rebates from the use of our P cards, our purchasing card.
Wow.
That's amazing. Well, it is. Got to use the benefits.
Yes, yes. Okay. Any other questions on this topic or anything else you want to say about this, Mr. Crosby? All right, let's move on. To eBay. Oh, is there a question?
I was just letting this soak in what you and Miss and what you, Mr. Dallas and Mrs. Crosby were saying, but also I just want to part there too, just in the revisiting of the conversation is now I do hear what Mr. Dallas is saying about telling them what to do with the money, but also that we would need to come up with some basically standards when it comes to them using concession stands as well, because they are working at our concession stands too at those schools and using different the power of other avenues and using different parts of the concession stand, and they're selling stuff and they're making money for those private groups. So I just want to put that out there too. So we have to come up with, we do need to have that conversation because that they are using public school they're using public schools energy and different things facilities to make some of these funds too. So I just want to put that out there.
Right. I that's what I understood what you meant. And a user fee for them is, I think, perfectly appropriate
Okay.
to have. So I agreed with that part of what you had to say.
Okay. Yes. I see. I just wanted to put that out there as well. Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, my presumption was that there would be a user fee already included. So if that's absent, absolutely. That's legitimate business expense on their part. So no
Absolutely.
issue
Right.
there.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thanks.
Charge Booster Club, because the money that, most of the money that they made, it goes in. For your benefits.
Right, but if they're coming in and using our facilities, if they come up and put their tent up and set it up, that's fine. But anybody that comes into our facility, whether it be a booster club or a church group or anything else, we have custodial responsibilities to clean up after them. We have the power and light. And so it's not a big fee, obviously.
Well, I know that's the Battery Creek and Well Branch, they clean up for themselves.
It would be on a case-by-case basis, each school. And, some schools, they don't do that perhaps. And so we have to ask the principals to manage that, to make sure that if they're using power, water, sewage, all that there's some fee, and it's probably not going to be much, but they should be responsible for some of that. Okay, let's talk about the E-rate Category 1 authorization.
All right, I have backup behind me here today, the experts again, that I'm gonna shoot for just help going over the executive summary that we provided here, this one pager. So this is E-rate funding year 2023, Category 1 application. So we have, there was one more page that actually provides the details. Basically, the district has applied for and received E-rate program support every year since the program's inception in 1998. And so what the E-rate, just very simplistically, if you look on your phone bill, or back in the day when we had landlines, there was a universal service fee attached to that phone bill. So universal service fees are fees that go back to the Universal Services Administration company, USAC. And so all the funding goes back there. And then this SLD, what's the other organization that distributes the funds back to processes the applications? Or you send it directly to USAC?
We send it directly
Okay.
to you, so.
So we apply directly to USAC for the use of these funds. They're intended for schools and libraries. It's the Schools and Libraries Division of USAC. So that is what we are requesting here, is to reimbursement of federal funding that's used for, it's going to be used for category 1 is services include data transmission and internet access. The E-rate program provides for reimbursements of invoices or discounts of eligible services. Our projected discount rate for funding year 23 for data transmission and internet services, i.e. the WAN, wide area network, is 80%. The contract we used to purchase the services included in this request was procured in accordance and compliance with E-rate bidding requirements. And here we're referring to the contractor we use, the name of the
That's
Hargray.
Hargray. Okay. So Hargray was the vendor that we used to receive these services. E-rates reimbursements and discounts are used as a revenue source to offset the internet access and broadband expenses in the general fund. So we spend it in the general fund, we put what we receive back into the general fund to help offset those costs. And during a selective review information request, so they're monitoring our program and asking for information, the E-rate program administrator requires the district to demonstrate sufficient evidence that your entity has provided for payment of your share. So we have to prove that we've spent the funding at a sufficient level in order to receive that reimbursement. And per the program administrator's policy, the board approval of this authorization satisfies that requirement. So we just need on an annual basis, this is a standard request. We come before you each year to request a motion to authorize the filing of E-rate funding applications for eligible category 1 services. And that doing so, the board acknowledges that it will budget sufficient funds to pay for the district share of the services that are not supported by E-rate programs. So we have brought a motion before you today. We do expect that the application request will be the total estimated annual cost for these services is $707,000. We will request $566,000 as a reimbursement, and we will be responsible for paying the other $141,510. So that is the projection for the next round of category 1 applications for services. So I think Robin has a motion ready. This will be a recommendation to the full board, and then we would move forward with the full board.
Ms. Hay, this is, and Mr. Dallas, this is something that happens every year that we, at this time of the year, do this. It's just a format requirement that we have to do. So do I hear a motion to recommend that we have the full board vote on to authorize the filing of E-rate funding year 2023 applications for eligible E-rate category 1 services.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Hay, would you second that motion?
Yes, I second this motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The last item on the agenda is the Beaufort Jasper Academy for Career Excellence Budget Information.
All right, so this is the final topic, I believe, for this month's meeting, and each year, Beaufort County School, let me start from the beginning. Beaufort County School District Finance Department is responsible for managing and for the financial operations of the Beaufort Jasper Academy for Career Excellence. So in state law, it actually dictates that Beaufort will handle manage the financial operations. So our team not only does financials for the school district, but also for a separate legal entity, which is BJ, Beaufort Jasper ACE. So it has about a $3 million budget. And this budget is a little different than ours in that the only, it still has local, state, and federal funding, but the local funding makes up the lion's share of the budget, and the local items are allocations from Beaufort and Jasper County school districts on a 2/3, 1/3 basis. So Beaufort, whatever expenditures occur or are projected, we then subtract any funding from the state or other revenue that we know of, and we back into what the allocation should be from Beaufort and Jasper. And so for the last 7 years, those budgets have remained the same. We were able to utilize, have savings some years, and then utilize the fund balance the next year. But basically the budgets have stayed the same for the two respective districts. Also in board policy, ACE board policy, it identifies or dictates that ACE will follow the salary schedules of Beaufort County School District. So, and any financial policies like procurement. And so Beaufort County School District, as you all know, we made some significant strides in teacher salaries this year, and we will be doing that again. We're making some increases next year as well. So very early on, I built this budget knowing that there were some increases, and I wasn't sure that we would be able to maintain that flat budget amount for the respective districts this year. So when building the budget, it does appear that there will be, without increasing Beaufort or Jasper's allocations, there would be approximately a $482,000 shortfall in the budget. So as a result of that, I provided an allocation at the bottom right-hand corner, a little further down, to allocate that $482,000 among Jasper and Beaufort. So we increased our budget in Beaufort for ACE by $321,000 this year, and asked Jasper County School District to increase by $160,000, which is the 2/3, 1/3 share based on state law. So for the first year, that in 7 years, we've had to increase that. And we've allocated this in our budget. And I was told by the CFO, I saw him at a meeting last Wednesday, and he indicated that they had put their share in their budget as well. So I'm just bringing this forward to provide the information to the board. The fund balance is in the range of $500,000. If we have a balanced budget, it would remain at $500,000. which is about a 17% fund balance, which is sort of in the range that Beaufort, our range in Beaufort County School District is 15 to 17%. So it falls almost identical into that range, exactly in that range for ACE. Just wanted to make sure board members are aware of the details behind that and the reasoning. And then we'll be, I believe that there will be a meeting scheduled probably next week between Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Anderson of Jasper and myself and the CFO of Jasper County School District. So we'll be continuing some discussions on financing and the future of financing as we move forward into other years as well. So this is just information. There's no request for specific emotion or anything of that sort. And the budget assumptions I used in this budget are exactly those increases that are in the Beaufort County School District budget.
One of the information that I need to share with the committee members is that, and Mr. Dallas and Mr. Campbell and I are on the board of ACE as well. So we know about this, but Ms. A, you might not know. The problem is that Jasper is not providing 1/3 of the students. They've been providing about 1/5 of the students. And so they're paying more for less. And I was frankly surprised to hear that their CFO said they're going to pay the extra money. This is something that cannot go on indefinitely. There's going to have to be some kind of an agreement. And we're getting a better deal out of it. So for us, it's fine. But Jasper County is probably going to have a problem. So that's one of the issues. Mr. Dallas, do you have anything else you want to say about that? I don't hear him. Mr. Smith, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. We're just serving on that board, on the ACE board, prior to January. I think that with the amount of students that are going to Beaufort Jasper ACE, the less amount of students that are going, I think that is something internal that Beaufort County could do better, a better representation in terms of recruiting and sending students over there. So I think that's something that we could do better in terms of the district. So I think that's more of a internal issue in terms internal of how we are gearing our students to go over there, or wherever we are actually telling our students, hey, there are good programs over there. I think that is a mechanism that's lacking within us in terms of sending students. And I think that at this time, Jasper County is just sending more students over there than us. So I think some of that issue is it comes to play with us as well. Because I've been told when I was on that board that we had at some point in time that there were been teachers that who were telling their students they would prefer them to stay within the school district. So that's a whole nother issue. But I mean, I just want to put that out there as well.
Okay, Mr. Campbell.
This has been a problem for years, and this has just started. I don't know what needs to be done now. I think that Jasper is going to focus more on their case program at this school. Over there.
Yeah. Yeah, your point is very valid. When this agreement was drawn up, ACE or Beaufort or Jasper, I'm sorry, Jasper did not have a CTE building and program. Now they do. And so those kids are going to their program instead of coming to the combined program. So that's where the issue is, Mr. Smith, is that, you know, we're just not getting them to, you know, they'd rather go to their own school than come to a combined school. So I understand that. But your point is that, what recruiting effort that Dr. LaVecchio is doing in the Jasper schools, because we do have some programs that they do not offer at the Jasper CTE building. So that, I think that's a valid point as well. Okay. And I believe that is the last agenda item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Dallas.
I am so sorry. I was having some challenges finding the right button here as I normally do so. To support Mr. Campbell's point and your point, Jasper has just built a new CTE center. They've added positions to target, in increasing their own offering. So I think that they realize that the drive itself can be an impediment to ACE. When you look at the traffic, so 462 and other places, excuse me, it can be problematical. And so I think what the district has been doing, which is depositing CTE in the local schools, I think that is very much favored by a lot of residents, voters, and parents. So just wanted to highlight that as well. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So future topics. Ms. Hay, do you have anything that we should talk about the next time?
Not, I am still feeling like I'm learning so much in every meeting. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Campbell? Mrs. Crosby?
I have standard reports. So of course, the board budget, the monthly $100,000 reports, and a transparency report, and the ESSER update with the dashboard. I have one additional topic, and that is a debt update. Mr. Nurick is interested in coming and giving the committee another update, and the status of our revenues, how they're coming, and the financial status of our debt program.
Okay.
Next meeting,
Next meeting?
our next meeting should be the 8th of June, but that's 12 branches graduation. So I'm proposing that we move it to Thursday, the 15th at 2:30.
That would be wonderful.
Can we go, whenever you leave,
I leave on the 15th.
can we do it on the 14th?
I'm
Can we
in.
do? Can, Ms. Hay?
Yes, I can.
The 14th? That's Wednesday?
Wednesday, the 14th at 2:30?
Works for me.
Okay.
And we can have our agenda setting.
I just saw it.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So, Mr. Chair.
Seconded?
I thank you very much. Thank you for coming, everybody. Great.